So are you getting in your own way? Are you emotional? Are you having a freak out moment? Are you? Are you? I know it can be so challenging in your business, but I'm here to tell you there is a formula for breaking through all your fear and your emotions. And I want you to stay tuned to this next episode of La Dolce Vita, the formula for fabulous living, where my guest shares her powerful story. She's going to share with you how in 1 minute you can break through your fears, break through your emotions that are keeping you stuck. So I want you to stay tuned. Frankie Lee, dimmi, quale senso della vita?
The meaning of life is to live la dolce vita, which is the formula for fabulous living.
Hi, my name is Heather Picken, and welcome to the La Dolce Vita show, the formula for fabulous living. I'm the catalyst in helping you to be more confident, create your dream business, and attract elite clients and live a fabulous life. Here's Heather helping you to upgrade your life to
fabulous. Upgrade your life to fabulous. Right, Frankie? You're fabulous.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of La Dolce Vita, the formula for fabulous living. And I'm really excited about today's topic. And this is all about persevering, really being able to break through your blocks and things when you get stuck, especially if you have a business. And I know I've wanted to give up so many times when I started my journey. And, thank God I didn't, because I'm here today empowering women entrepreneurs, women leaders all over the world. And I love this topic. I'm going to introduce my guest, Masha Malka. I was saying it 10 times before we started here, and I'm like, you know what? I might mess up your name, so you can correct me. But it's interesting because her story is, you've really defied all of the odds throughout your life. We definitely have that in common. And let me read a little bit about your story. Wow, really interesting is that you became a Soviet refugee at the age of 17. So talk about breaking through some pretty big challenges. With fire in her belly and determination beyond compare, Masha became the best-selling author and founder of the 1 Minute Coach educational system. She has worked as an executive coach for 15 years, built a successful import and distribution company, taught business leadership at MUIC, won ballroom dancing competitions. Oh, I love ballroom dancing. Yay. And got her master's degree in higher education while raising 3 children. Oh my gosh, what a rock star. She has extensive training and education that contributes to her ability to create a life most only dream of. And that's true because, you got to be fearless in your pursuit of doing something worthy. So Masha, thank you so much for being my guest today.
Oh, thank you, Heather. Very nice to be on your show.
Yeah. And I just, to me, I think we really connect as women, through our stories. Everyone has a story. And Absolutely. Your story is pretty impressive. I mean, how many people can, flee from another country, come over here, start businesses, become successful, and create the life that they love? Now, probably the premise for your book was all of your journeys, right?
My first book, because I have 2 under the umbrella of the 1 Minute Coach system, which I will explain a little bit in a minute. The first book, the 1 Minute Coach, Change Your Life 1 Minute at a Time, is basically based on that time in my life when I became a refugee and I had to build from basically zero, or I would say even minus. When I went to college to learn English, they tested all of us to see which level we're going to go on. And my parents ended up in level 0. I ended up in level -1. I didn't even realize it existed.
Wow.
But I kind of started, without any language, without money, friends, connection. I left everything behind. As a refugee, you lose not only your citizenship, but most importantly, you lose the people that you love, because when I left, it was still Soviet Union. The wall did not come down yet. We had no idea it would. So I left thinking that I will never see my friends, the rest of my family. I left with my parents, but the rest of my family, that was very, very, very difficult. And of course, the fact that the mindset, the Soviet mindset and the American mindset, they like took, opposite spectrums.
It's so different. And even today, we see a total disconnect. And I bet you're really grateful and thankful that you're here today, that you made that journey.
I am now, definitely. At the time, at the age of 17, I had a pretty good life, to be honest. I had a lot of friends. I was going out, I was studying. I didn't want to leave. It was my mom that wanted to give us a better future. At that time, as a teenager, I didn't quite understand what that meant. I just wanted to live my life, But she was very clever, my mom, because I said to her, I don't want to go. And she said, okay, fine, you stay, we go. And of course, I didn't want to. I didn't want to go on my own. Yes, so I came, and it was very rough. The first few years, the first 5 years, I would say, was very rough. Mainly because I lost a sense of identity. I didn't know how to fit in anymore, and I had no sense of purpose. That's very hard. Eventually became one of my purposes in life, is to help other people discover theirs, because I know how bad it feels not to have that sense of purpose, not to have not to know where you're going, not to have the clarity of how you're going to get there, and this desire that I had almost from the very beginning to make a difference, to change the world. And I felt like, what can this little Russian girl, because I'm very small, I'm like 5'2", do, in this big America, this country I know nothing about, like, what can I do to change the world? And fortunately, I came to realization that if I change my life, if I work on myself and I make myself a success, and I do the best and be the best I can be, that will automatically change the world. Because if you think about it, if everybody does that, then the world will definitely be a much better place. So I started to learn a lot about self-improvement, and I listened to many tapes, Brian Tracy, Anthony Robbins, many books, and actually not just listening and reading, and this is really important. I've always been a very good student, and so I would do all the exercises,
yes, you have to apply it. You have to apply. And just, I want to interject something really quickly, because you're talking about your story and how you struggled, and you were basically birthing your purpose out of your own need, which I think it's really important for people to hear. Women that are either listening or watching this right now, if you're going through what I call a holy crap moment, when everything is breaking down, if you follow it, then you can turn it into a mission and a vision and really help people. And that's what you're doing today. And that's what I love it. We get so scared when we're going through something like that. I know years ago, when I didn't know how to handle it, I got really emotional, and I would be in what I call my freak out moment. I didn't have the tools that I had today. And I know your book talks about, why it's important to handle your emotions during those situations, because you've lived it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And very, very good that you said that, because what I'd like to add is that we are never, I believe, and not just me, it's a lot of wise people whose stories I read, believe that we're never given a challenge we cannot overcome. Yes. Spiritually speaking, like, we're not, if we're given a challenge, it's because we have the resources within ourselves to overcome this challenge and become a much stronger, better, wiser person in the process. So in a way, these challenges are given to us almost as a gift for our soul to grow and expand, and to become better. I worked as a coach for many years, for 15 years, and every time I would ask somebody to name their peak moments in life, it is practically always some particular challenge, and the stronger the challenge, the more they feel it was like this incredible moment that they've overcome.
Right.
Overcoming challenges is what makes life interesting in a way,
It does, and you can't do it alone. I mean, that's why it's important, I think, to hire a mentor or coach, read books, like get some tools and strategies so that you can, go out there and help other people. I really feel like we're in this together. Everyone on this planet, we're in it together. And once you find your purpose, then, it's like everyone else evolves. Like, to me, I look at it as evolving mass consciousness on this planet. So I love your vision and mission. And I'm sure when people hear your story, they're like blown away, like, wow, I can't believe that you moved over here and you went through all those challenges. And, what do you think, looking back at your story, that was the biggest challenge for you? Or have you had other, not that you haven't had any challenges, up to this point, but would you say that was like the most difficult thing?
I used to think it was the most difficult until about like 4.5 years ago, when I had to face my biggest fear. And that's something, Heather, you mentioned actually a few times as you spoke. The most important word that you said is fearless. You said it a few times. You said fearless, facing your fears. It's all about that. It's all about, this is how we become stronger. This is how we gain self-confidence, self-esteem. If anybody is struggling, what facing fears and overcoming fears is what makes us strong, what helps us get to where we want to get. And so about 4.5 years ago, I ended up facing my biggest fear, and that was by far more difficult than anything I've ever faced. And my particular fear was to be left alone, for my husband to leave me. I guess the fear of abandonment, if we look for the word. And it happened, and which is not really surprising, because when we fear something like really strongly, it happens. Why? Because that's what we focus on, regardless whether we focus on something because we really want it, or we focus on something because we really don't want it. As long as you focus on it, that's what you bring into your life. It's law of attraction. So me having this huge fear that one day it might happen, of course it happened. Yeah, and that was hard. That was like losing. Like I felt like my ground was disappeared, and I just completely lost it. And I was left with 3 children. And but honestly, the best thing that happened to me.
But isn't it?
It's usually like that. No?
I can relate.
It's usually like that. Sorry.
Part of my story has been being disempowered in the areas, from money to men. Like, my life was a mess, but particularly in those 2 areas. And I found that those were very connected. Every time I would get into a bad relationship, I would lose all my money. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? And so it's like, I would just, get in a relationship that would be toxic for me. And then I would face my fear. I'm like, I've got to break up with this person. This person has taken me down. It's taking me down like the Titanic. So I better do something. And so I really appreciate, you sharing, going through that story. And there's women all around the world that are going through divorce, death, like all of these things. And we just have to be able to face our fear, like breaking it down. When you think about like the anxiety, like I want to give you a recent example. So I am not a big believer in going to like traditional medical doctor. I've got my own method, the way that I believe. That's another show. But anyways, my boyfriend wanted me to get a specific test, and I really didn't want to do it. It went against everything that I stand for. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to appease him, and I'm going to do it. And I was freaking terrified. I was so terrified to kind of look at the results. And I'm finally like, you know what? I am just going to let go, because you got to look at worst case scenarios, and then you just let it go. And I did, and everything was fine. But I was creating all of this anxiety inside of me. And I knew, I'm like, listen, this is something that I teach, but I was so in my head. So when someone, let's just say, you're working with someone or talking about some of your strategies, when they're in that head, because I know I've been there where you're like, we'll never get through. We'll never not have fear. It's really unrealistic to say you'll never have fear, because we all have it. It just depends on what degree. But what are some of the things that you recommend that you've walked people through when they're in that moment, right? Of not knowing, they're freaking out. What do I do, right? So what are some of the things that you have people do?
That's a brilliant question. I will trace it back a little bit and will tell you what actually gave me that last little push to take this step. And I read a quote and it just clicked with me. And the quote was, if you're really afraid to lose something, lose it and don't be afraid anymore. And I was so tired in a way to live in fear, and I knew I had that fear, and I knew it created a huge dependency. You know, when you have a strong fear, you're dependent because you're too scared to let go. And it wasn't a healthy relationship. So I said to myself, you know what, I'm going to lose it and not be scared anymore, because living in fear is much harder than facing any of that, any of the fears. So that's step number one. You have to realize that as long as you live in fear, you're never going to be happy, not really, not fully, and you're not going to really have much respect for yourself, or you know, the confidence that you need. So facing the fear is usually less scary than it seems. And even if it is scary, you know, it passes. Nothing is scarier than the fear itself. I think that's also, someone said that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is what you also said. When you're in the midst of it and suddenly you realize, I'm freaking out, you know, I'm losing it, you know, I'm here. You have to realize that it is all in your head. It is your thoughts creating emotions, and then emotions making you feel a certain way, and then you start thinking more, and it's like this spiral that is taking you down. So you want to basically stop thinking. This is that's why so many people recommend meditating.
Yeah.
Because the more you learn to stop this constant noise in your head, constant thinking, you know, the more you learn to do that, and the more you can do that, you know, maybe more and more every day, you will be much calmer. You will realize that the same situation that used to like fire you up and make you react, suddenly you're not reacting. You're like, wow, you know, I'm chilled, you know, this is great. But that's because you break that pattern. You know, most of the things, yeah, it's a pattern. It's something that was triggered by a certain very strong event, somewhere maybe in the childhood or earlier in your life. It doesn't have to be childhood, but something happened that triggered a particular reaction. And that emotion kind of gets stuck in your system, in your energy field. It gets stuck there. So when the emotion is stuck in us, we manifest situation that create that emotion for us over and over again. And you will notice that you have a pattern of particular emotions, not that many. There may be like 3-4 emotions that constantly are triggered by different people or different events. And that's an indication that there is an emotion that's stuck in your body and it needs to be released. An emotion is not supposed to be stuck in your body. An emotion is just energy. It's not who you are. It doesn't belong to you. That's why it's also, you have to be careful how you use your language. You don't say, you know, I'm frustrated, I'm angry, or I'm sad, you know, I'm happy. You say, I feel frustrated.
Yeah, you know, I think that's really interesting, because when people say, and I might get a lot of flack for this, when people say that I'm, you know, oh, I'm depressed, I'm like, well, you're really comparing your life to a fantasy of how you think your life should be. And if you just kind of like, just take a step back and use those tools that you're talking about, like really manage your energy and your emotions. And I love the fact that you said meditation, because meditation, they have proven scientifically that it slows down the brain waves. You get into that place and you can get the answers. But yet a lot of times people think they're going to find the answers to their issues when they're in that fear state, that fight or flight type of situation. Yes. Right? So I love the fact that you're saying meditation. So let's talk about meditation. And it's funny because this is exactly what I did when I was in my freak out moment. I'm like, Heather, you know better. Meditate. I went into a little meditation. I did a guided meditation because I think that helps me the most when I'm in my amygdala. And within a couple minutes, everything started to like release and let go. And I had this inner knowing of like everything was going to be okay. It was really cool. But I think a lot of times, most people I think that are watching or listening to this, they don't understand the benefit of being able to do that, right?
It's not so much that they don't understand the benefit, they're just not sure how to do it. It's not so,
Right.
it's easy to say, meditate, but most people don't know what that means or how to do it. But I'm just going to just step back for 1 second, because something you said earlier about reaching out to other people, getting help, either from people who actually specialize, like coaches or psychologists, psychiatrists, or books, or shows like yours, reaching out to get an outside opinion is very important. And the same thing happens with meditation. And actually, it was Albert Einstein who said that we can never resolve a problem from the same place it was created. So our mind, our thoughts are always in the same. We're in the same kind of like same pot. You're thinking and thinking, and it's the same thing, and you're going around and round and round. And you got to get out of that, your personal little space, and get an outside opinion, or listen to something that suddenly makes sense or clicks. And when you meditate, that's also what happens, because you quiet your mind and you get that different perspective by quieting your mind. Now, people who are just starting to meditate, I recommend to start with guided meditations on YouTube. There's loads of them there. You basically go on YouTube, whatever issue you might have. If it's anxiety, you put anxiety guided meditation. If it's depression, you put depression guided meditation. If you're just tired and you cannot sleep, or you're having insomnia, they have guided meditations for that too. You start with that, and you will understand how they, what they're saying to calm your mind, and then you can do it to yourself as well. You can also put hypnosis. That's kind of more or less the same thing. But you start with that, and that would be the first step. And then just slowly try to spend even 5 minutes just to, just not to think. And in a way, it's not logical. That's why a lot of people don't understand. It doesn't make sense if you stop thinking how you're going to resolve a problem. Like people used to, again, it's a habit. They used to think and analyze and connect the dots and think out of the box, to find the solution. But actually, it works. Like you said, you quieted your mind, and suddenly it was released, and you understood, and you had the clarity. It just works. It's not logical, but it works.
It's so true. And I know people are listening to this right now. They have a problem. Maybe it's their business. Maybe they need to focus on making more money. But when you are feeling like, I have to, using imperative language, feeling forced, you cannot be in your flow. You cannot be in your genius zone. And it is counterintuitive. So I just love what you're saying. It's like, you got to look at your emotions. You've got to meditate. You've got to change your state of how you're thinking and being. Now, it's interesting. Your book is coaching yourself basically in 1 minute,
Yes.
in a day or whatever.
I was about to show you. This is my new book. It was just released last month. It's the 1 minute coach to mastering your emotions, a step-by-step guide to feeling good on a regular basis. And just briefly, the 1 minute coach system is quite unique. I mean, there's thousands of self-help books, and I'm sure lots of them are wonderful, and I read a lot of them all the time. What makes my books unique is the way I write them. I actually majored in math. I never really intended to be a writer, so my books are written using that very, I guess, logical, step-by-step, action-oriented way. In fact, it's written using accelerated learning techniques, which is the skill of learning how to learn, and it works with the whole brain learning. So it's very quick to absorb, it's very easy to internalize, and most importantly, it has action steps. So you will see here, each page is a standalone chapter, and you will see that on the left-hand side, this would be the left of the 2 pages, it will be the information, which corresponds to the left side.
And I just want to interrupt you. For those that are watching on iTunes, you got to go over to heatherpicken.com and find the episode
Okay.
so that you can see it.
Okay. Yeah. This is the video. So I'm showing. I was so happy that we're doing a video. I'm like, yes, I can show. Actually, I can show the book. So, and then the right hand side, which corresponds to the right side of the brain, has an image that summarizes basically what they just read, and it's very, it's easy. I don't think even books with complicated content have to be complicated. I think, we need to try and make it as easy as possible for people to read and grasp what they need to know. And the action steps are important because I'm sure I assume you would agree with me that knowledge these days does not have that much value because there's too much knowledge. There's an information overload. What has value is applying that knowledge, is actually taking the knowledge and doing something with it. And to make it, again, as easy as possible for my readers, I give a little bit of information, just a bit, not to overwhelm, and exactly the steps that you can take to use this information. So it's easy to read and it's easy to apply, and that's what makes it unique.
I love it. I love the fact that you have broken it into easy steps so people can digest the information and then, of course, apply it. They can easily take action and then get results because that's what it's all about. Well, Masha, this has been so much fun. I really enjoyed our conversation. And before we go today, where can people learn about your book, buy your book, learn more about you?
Yes, the best place is to go to my website, which is mashamalka.com. That's MASHAMALKA.com. There's a link there on the homepage to buy the book. There are gifts you get if you sign up to the newsletter. And you can also find out about my workshops and one-on-one coaching that I also offer.
That is fantastic. And if you're watching in YouTube, it is in the show notes, iTunes in the show notes as well. Well, thank you so much again for being my guest, Masha. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And I have to hear you say again, La Dolce Vita.
La Dolce Vita.
Can I try?
Yeah. La Dolce Vita. I just feel happy when I say it.
Oh, that's so cute.
And a little bit silly.
Oh, it's great. It's perfect. You have to have fun.
Absolutely. My pleasure. My pleasure. And I just want to close out this show for everyone that's listening or watching. Take advantage. Go to Masha's site. To me, it's all about learning and applying and setting your ambitious goals and being able to actually achieve that, because there is a formula. We're here to break down that formula and give you exactly what you need. Until next time, this is Heather Picken. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So if you found this show to be fabulous, please share with your fabulous friends, rate, review, and subscribe on YouTube and iTunes. And I'll make sure I take a beatbox lesson, right? Or give my little chihuahua a bone. That's me. Fabulous.